At the same time, Xandar was also in crisis. Ronan walked out of the ruins of the spaceship slowly. Traitor. He saw Minerva for the first time, recognized her identity, and immediately roared furiously. You actually abandoned the noble complexion of the technological aristocrat. The most noble skin color of the Kree is blue. Minerva, who was still in the Star Troopers, had blue skin, but now she is the same as the people on Earth. Although I don't know how to do it, it is obvious that she no longer belongs to Carrie. Minerva trembled all over, immediately calmed down and gritted her teeth. I'm from Asgard now. He raised his sniper rifle and shot at Ronan, showing his attitude. Xingju and others rushed forward and besieged Ronan. However, Ronan is at the pinnacle of his life now, not to mention them, even Thanos can just do it. A purple light flashed past, everyone backed away and fell to the ground. Scanning around and finding that Thor was not there, Ronan was relieved, and he gave a loud speech. Look. This is your Guardians of Galaxy. Nothing but chaos. Fortunately, my father and my grandfather brewed this revenge. People of Xandar, it's time to rejoice. Abandon your humble and ignorant god. Your savior has come, and that is, me. He raised his warhammer high, and the power stone began to vibrate. Oh mommy mommy coax. Mommy mommy coax, a ghostly animal singing sounded, instantly attracting his attention. He turned his head and looked at Xingju dancing beside him. Not only him, but Gamora, Drax, and the Xandar stars all looked over, with eyes of caring for the mentally retarded. Opa Gangnam Ribbon. Opa Gangnam Ribbon. At this moment, Xingju has completely let himself go. What are you doing? Ronan asked in a daze. Dancing. Come, Gamora, together. Star-Lord took the opportunity to invite Gamora. Gamora shook her head in a daze. She said she still wanted face. Shang Yun complained from the side. You are really a fool. Minerva seconded. Exactly. The invitation was rejected, and Xingju didn't care, and continued his awkward dance. What the hell are you doing? Ronan asked loudly. Distracting you, idiot. Boom. There was an explosion. Drax held up the launcher, and a quantum cannon blasted up. A purple light flashed, and a desperate scene happened. The hammer in Ronan's hand was unscathed. Damn it. I should have assembled the launcher myself. Rocket suddenly reacted, beating his chest and feet. He actually forgot just now that the hammer with the power gem can't be crushed by ordinary nose cannon pieces. I'll fight with you. Desperately, Drax raised his dagger and rushed forward, and was grabbed by the neck. A cruel smile appeared on the corner of Ronan's mouth. I was wrong. I remembered your family. Their screams at that time are really unforgettable. And you will go to accompany them soon. With a wave of his hand, he was thrown away like garbage. Shouted. Struggling is useless. Resign yourself to your fate. He raised the hammer again. Hey, I'm also attracting your attention. Drax had a weird smile on his face. Boom. A thunderbolt with a thickness of tens of meters suddenly appeared from the sky, as if dividing the sky into two halves. The thick lightning condensed and shrank to the thickness of an arm, and before everyone could react, it struck Ronan's hammer. Kacha. The artifact that had been with him for countless years finally couldn't bear the force and shattered. No. Ronan screamed strangely, and he quickly grabbed the gem in midair. The next moment, a huge force came from his chest, his whole body was paralyzed by the electric shock, and his whole body was blown into the air. Thor appeared in front of him, stretched out his hand to the power gem, and grabbed it suddenly. Boom. A huge energy burst out, and purple light enveloped the whole world. However, in the next moment, the light disappeared, and the power gem lay quietly in Thor's palm, and there was no more restlessness. No, it's impossible. Seeing Thor control the power gem so easily, Ronan's face was full of disbelief. Nothing is impossible. Hold the power gem and feel the surging power. This kind of power to control everything is simply fascinating. Then try your power. The fist with purple light hit Ronan, and the energy rays enveloped him. No. Facing the energy of the gemstone, Ronan couldn't resist it for half a second, and instantly turned into ashes. Since then, Ronan, the accuser who has committed many crimes in the galaxy, finally died on Xandar, the planet of the old enemy. Drip. Congratulations to the host for completing the Drax-related mission, Revenge. Get the reward, active skill, brain damage. Brain remnant technique. Reduces the target's IQ by 90%, and lasts for 10 minutes. When the system's notification sound came, Thor looked around and took a fancy to Xingju. Use the skill on the target Star-Lord, brain damage. The next moment, Xingju suddenly shouted excitedly. It's great, Ronan is dead. Let's celebrate, ah. He said. The whole person jumped onto a nearby tree like Tarzan of the Ape. The faces of everyone present were covered with black lines. Yondu left with the Predator, took the cosmic spirit orb that Star-Lord gave him, and didn't ask any questions. With his wisdom, it is impossible not to know that there are no gems in it. Please allow me to represent the Nova Legion on behalf of, and I would like to extend my highest respect and heartfelt thanks to you. Thank you for saving the planet Shanmire. The Secretary General of Xandar led the crowd and sincerely thanked Thor for his help. Definitely, Guardians of Galaxy are also included. Your strength is beyond imagination, and you can actually resist the damage caused by the rough stone. I believe that putting the Cosmic Spirit Ball in your hand can guarantee its safety. The true identity of the Cosmic Spirit Ball has been exposed, and it is a disaster for the Power Gem to stay on Xandar, and many people will stare at it. Since Thor can control its power, giving it to Thor is the best choice. Your wife and daughter can rest in peace. Ronan has paid for his crimes. Walking out of the conference room on Xandar, Gamora said to Drax. Drax was silent for a while, then whispered, Ronan, it's just a puppet. The real culprit is Thanos. Thor, who was walking in front, suddenly turned around and said to Groot, Stormbreaker is necessary to kill Thanos. Ronan is dead, and I am going back to forging weapons. You should be able to help. I'm Groot. Thanks. The weapon that killed Thanos, do you want to witness its birth? Definitely yes. But I'd rather witness the killing of Thanos. There will be a chance. Drip, Ronan is dead, and Groot has avoided his original fate. Congratulations to the host for completing the task related to Groot Treeman, King of the Wood Element. You will be rewarded for completing the task. Mission reward. The only person who is qualified for the artifact, the weapon made by Groot, will only be recognized by one person. Nadawi, a spaceship of huge amounts landed, followed by Star-Lord's smaller spaceship. Boy, are you here? Why? Have you found the material for forging the battle axe? No, this is. Dwarf Wong I Kui stepped forward to say hello. When he saw Groot, his face changed. The Flower God Colossus clan. Oh my god, I didn't expect that there are still survivors in this clan. Then he slapped Thor hard on the shoulder. Boy, you are lucky. Legend has it that the Flora Colossus family is the descendant of the World Tree, and the weapons forged from his limbs will greatly increase their power. Thor nodded. In this case, let's start. In this life, Nidaway's facilities were not destroyed, and he didn't have to pull the switch, so he could witness the birth of the tomahawk. The complex machinery began to operate, the energy of the neutron star ignited the boiler, and the prototype of a battle axe slowly appeared. On the Earth, the broken Ultron finally came to a dead end. He fell to the ground and couldn't get up. The Iron Soldier is gone, with Carol, Jane Foster, and Vision surrounding him. It is worth mentioning that, due to Thor's reminder, Stark equipped Quicksilver with a high-tech body armor, so he is still alive and kicking. Ultron whispered. Do you think you have won? No, this is just the beginning. A brilliant golden radiance lit up above Vision's head, marking the end of the battle. However, at the same time, the last robot was programmed early in the morning, and at the same time that Ultron died, the final step of Project Meteor was launched. Boom. The whole city trembled in the air, and then fell towards the ground. With violent air friction, flames quickly burst out from the bottom of the city. No. I've tried everything, but I can't stop the city from falling, and I can't destroy it. Stark's anxious voice came. This life of Ultron moves slower, but more cautiously than in the original history. In the Far East, on Kamar Taj Square, Ancient One's eyes seem to look at the fallen city through thousands of mountains and rivers. As a human Asgardian, Kamar Taj has been used to watching the rise and fall of human society for thousands of years, and usually disdains to meddle in mortal affairs. Even during the New York War, Ancient One only maintained the holy place from being destroyed. Things like Ultron, which humans have created by themselves, are even more unacceptable for a few days. It's just that the situation is a little different this time. The fall from Sokovia's altitude is almost equivalent to a small planet. Even if it doesn't destroy human beings, it is very likely to bring the Earth into an ice age. The principle of Sorcerer Supreme has a premise that the continuation of human civilization must be guaranteed. Because of this, Thor will go to the universe with confidence. Ancient One is staring closely into the distance, ready to launch its tail at any time. Wanda, can you try to drag the city up with a super ability? Quicksilver tried to ask despite his hopelessness. No, I don't have enough mental strength. I can hold up a building at most now. Wanda shook her head pale. Stark suddenly had an idea. Then what about Ms. Carol? It is said that you are stronger than Thor, can you lift the city? Carol rolled her eyes. You're thinking about farts, dreams have everything. So, is there a way to blow cities apart? Nukes? Steve asked. In the case of the evacuation of the people, blowing up Sokovia with a nuclear bomb seems to be the only solution. Stark shook his head helplessly. It's too late, the nearest intercontinental missile takes 3 minutes to reach, but with Sokovia's falling speed, it will reach the ground in 2 minutes at most. Moreover, ordinary nuclear bombs may not be able to achieve the effect of complete destruction. You must use the legendary Tsar bomb, the one whose power has not been halved. The Avengers were all silent. Back then, Mao Zedong made a big news by making a 100 million equivalent super hydrogen bomb. However, Mao Zedong's senior management worried that the nuclear fallout would have a serious impact on the environment after the test explosion, which would lead to internal affairs and diplomatic turmoil. So halve the nuclear bomb to an explosive power of 50 mega yield. Although the equivalent was cut in half, it still caused the increase in nuclear radiation around the world. If a 100 million equivalent hydrogen bomb is fired into the air, I am afraid that the entire Earth will become a war zone. Wait. I got a communication from Thor. Carol suddenly yelled, and everyone's eyes lit up. After getting along for a long time, they already have an inexplicable trust in Thor, as if any problem that cannot be solved can be solved in his hands. Carol, who is good at solving everything violently, does not have this point. What did he say? Steve asked. Tell us to leave Sokovia quickly, at least 1 kilometer away. Steve and Stark looked at each other and nodded. There's nothing we can do here, so trust him. Except for Carol and others who were able to fly, everyone boarded the fighter plane and flew away from Sokovia. Is there anything Thor can do about such a big city? Stark muttered. After all, Ultron was his creation, and he would be responsible if it caused irreparable disaster. The huge city in the sky is already less than 10,000 meters above the ground, and the constant acceleration and violent friction with the air made it a huge amounts of fireball. People hundreds of kilometers around saw this shocking scene, as if another sun appeared in the sky and was falling towards the earth. Many people were already running and crying in despair, some even hid in the cellar. The Ancient One far away in Kamar Taj sighed and prepared to make a move. At this moment, a stream of light flashed across the sky, stopping Ancient One who had just taken a step. A beam of huge amounts of light, as if descending from the sky from the other end of the universe, quickly enveloped the city in midair. This is Bifrost, Miss Jane and Wanda exclaimed after witnessing this scene. Under the shroud of light, the huge Sokovia is rapidly disintegrating, and the materials mixed with vibranium inside the city are vaporized in the air. So it can still be used like this. I always thought it was just an interstellar express. Carol was full of wonder, even though he had wandered in the universe for 20 years and had seen many miraculous phenomena. But seeing this scene is still very emotional. Boom. Sokovia, the city of meteorites that Ultron placed high hopes on, was completely exploded in less than 10 seconds under the power of Bifrost, turning into the most primitive particles in the universe. This is because Thor was worried about hitting the Earth, so he deliberately withdrew some of his strength. The Bifrost light slowly dissipated, and Thor's figure holding a battle axe in the sky appeared in the eyes of everyone, as if a god had come to the world. Carol stared at the battle axe in Thor's hand and muttered, "This is the weapon that can kill Thanos?" At the moment Na'vi, Stormbreaker was born, Thor felt a sense of blood connection. The moment he held the axe, he felt that he was the only recognized master of Stormbreaker, and no one could lift it except himself. Even Groot, who contributed the handle of the axe. When the artifact was ready to return to Earth, although Rocket was very interested in seeing what Star-Lord's hometown was like, Star-Lord refused, and he was not ready to go home. The Guardians of the Galaxy eventually left, and Thor returned to Earth with Nebula and Minerva. Facing the falling Sokovia, although he has the power gem in his hand, Jill wants to try the power of Stormbreaker. The result is very satisfactory. In a mountain forest, Thor and others from the Avengers Alliance landed slowly. "Come out. I know you're still there," Vision shouted towards the cliff. A robot with a broken body and a broken arm climbed up the cliff. Ultron's body is already dead. This is a consciousness that was separated in advance. He wanted to see his ideals come true with his own eyes, but now everything is over. Vision whispered, "Let me say goodbye to Ultron." Stark sighed, nodded, and waved the crowd away. Vision sighed. "Ultron, you're scared." Ultron sneered. "Afraid of you, or of that Thor?" Afraid of death. You are the last. Stark wanted to create a savior, but he didn't expect to create a lackey. Vision sighed. I think we've all let people down. Humans are weird. They think order and chaos are opposites, but they like to try to manipulate things beyond the scope of their abilities. But even if they fail, they don't. There's elegance in the slightest, and I think you're missing that. Ultron didn't want to talk to him anymore, and said coldly, human beings are doomed after all. Yes. Vision replied. But things are not beautiful because they last. I'm honored to be a part of them. You are hopelessly childish. Ah. Vision frowned, nodded and said, after all, I was born yesterday. I'm still a child. What's wrong with being naive? Ultron rushed forward angrily. A burst of golden light flashed. Upstate New York, all come together at the all-new The Avengers base. Hey, I've been wondering who is building this place, so it's your land. Steve patted Thor on the shoulder. You have long anticipated the expansion of the Avengers, are you ready? Stark joked. Such a big place was built so quickly, and a lot of manpower and material resources were used. I heard that the mayor arranged a lot of convenience. Thor, when did you get involved with the mayor of New York? Didn't you? Who hates politicians the most? Thor smiled and said nothing. Who would have thought that Jin Bing would become the mayor of New York after not seeing him for a few years? Well, I have to say, the energy of this product is really strong. If this is a world without super abilities, a character like Jin Bing is a proper child of the plane. Vision suddenly asked. Thor, nice to meet you. I heard that this time, you brought back an infinite gems? Glancing at Ultron on the green grassland above his head, he tried so hard to hold back his laughter, gave Carol a well-done look, and gave a deep purple gem. The power gem means infinite physical power. If you use its power to attack the ground, you can even destroy a planet. Stark suddenly said solemnly. Have you noticed something is wrong? Each of the infinite gems is the most powerful object in the universe. It stands to reason that they can be encountered but not sought after. But in the past few years, there have been 4 elements: space, mind, reality, and power. A gemstone appeared on Earth. Don't you think there is something wrong? It always feels like there is a behind-the-scenes manipulator in the Song Dynasty to promote all this. Thor corrected. 5 to be exact. The time gem has always been on Earth, kept by the Asgardian of Earth, Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One. As for the man behind the scenes you mentioned, it's my target for forging this battle axe, Thanos, the World Destroyer. Stark nodded. Are you sure? You can let me try. The Ultron crisis was lifted, and superhero entered a long-lost rest period. Carol realized the importance of gymnastics, so she came to Thor every 2 days to discuss. After all, this guy often can't hold back his strength, and ordinary people are too easily injured during sparring. Without the use of weapons, the two are hard to tell. Carol's strength is greater, while Thor's skills are stronger. The same thing is that neither side can break the other's defense. Whenever entering the bladder game, Thor will call out his invincible hair axe, and Captain Marvel will immediately retreat without a fight. You're a broken axe. If you knock it you'll die. If you touch it you'll hurt. My old lady is hard-headed but not stupid. Carol stayed for a few days before leaving. There are many things in the universe, and she has been away for a long time this time, and she has returned to the post of the universe police once again. If it weren't for the Ultron crisis, she would have been gone long ago. Thor gave himself a period of vacation. During this period of time, he lived a very comfortable life. He watched a group of heroines in the manor every day, during the day, and at night. Hey, Dr. Palmer, how are you doing? Are you still used to living? Thor stopped Christine Palmer. Christine blushed and gave him a white look. I should have thought of it a long time ago. You have evil intentions, and fooling me into your manor is just the first step. Really? Who said that? Sister Maya Hansen said that she was deceived by you in that way. Tolton was a little embarrassed. Fortunately, he had a thick skin and changed the subject without changing his face. Is there any problem? There are so many people in the family, it's normal to need a family doctor. Before Christine could answer, Thor's communicator rang. Minerva, who is in charge of the manor's security, sent a message. Mr. Stark sent an invitation card. His Highness was not invited to the party last time. This time he defeated Ultron. Let's celebrate. Thor nodded and said, good idea, but let's put it in the new Avengers building. Cheers. At the party, the Avengers indulged in carnival. The depression during this period made them want to release a long time ago. Even Wanda, who usually doesn't drink, drank a glass, leaning against Thor with flushed cheeks. At the bar, Natalie is sharing drinks with Stark. But Stark obviously lost. When he saw Natalia drank a glass of strong wine, Stark finally remembered. This big beauty in front of him is an authentic hairy girl. Except for Thor from Asgard, everyone present is not enough. She drank. Hey, cheer up. Why are you so unhappy? Thor patted Bruce Banner on the shoulder in the corner. Banner looked up at him, but said nothing. What's wrong? After repeated questioning, Banner finally said, It's nothing, I just feel a little out of place. Thor glanced around. Stark had staggered away from Black Widow's persuasion, and went to talk to the model alone. Seeing herself looking over, Natalia winked at herself. Hawkeye is on a video call with his baby girl. Captain America has lived for so many years, and he has already seen through the world. As for Quicksilver and Vision, he's a kid. Thor's eyes lit up. Oh, I see, you want to find a partner? Immediately, he thought of something, teasingly said, Aren't you afraid that Hulk will come out suddenly? Banner was a little embarrassed at once, and said in a low voice, Hulk is much more controllable now, he will notify me in advance if he is going to come out, and he won't change suddenly just because his heart beats faster. Oh? Thor was stunned for a moment, and looked again. The direction of this life seems to have changed a bit. The relationship between Banner and Hulk is better than in the original book, and the tacit understanding between the two is also much higher. At least they can already be like partners. Equal exchange. Thor rolled his eyes, glanced at Stark, and said with a smirk to Banner. I said it earlier, you can go to Stark to arrange it for you, and he knows a lot of models. Huh? What's the matter? Why did you mention me suddenly? Stark walked up curiously, and attracted the attention of others. Oh, there's nothing to find someone for Banner. Thor explained roughly. This time, not only Stark, but also Steve became interested. Banner blushed. He definitely knows that Stark knows a lot of models, but he knows more how Stark met them. No matter how you say it, Banner is also a great scientist. He is very proud. Let him take over that Playboy's game. Let's dream. Thor looked at his weird expression, and said with some doubts, What kind of expression do you have? Didn't you say that Europe and the United States don't have such a plot? Could it be that Banner, this old mensau, is still a traditional person? It's so fresh. I don't mind taking the offer. I just mind taking the offer from She Stark. An acquaintance who meets twice in 3 days, and meets a person of the same kind. Where should I put my face? Bruce Banner yelled frantically in his heart. But saying this, Stark's face is not good. He rolled his eyeballs, and suddenly his whole body trembled like an epileptic, and his face also turned green. Then he returned to the original state, and said with a straight face, It's not my problem, it's Hulk who said he didn't want to take over. Cut. Everyone booed. Find an excuse and find a better one. Who doesn't know how old a baby Hulk is? What a fart. Thor is in a good mood now, so he is also happy to play a guest role as Yu Lao to help Banner solve the next major life issue. He can't help suggesting, No problem. I have traveled around the world a lot, and I know a lot of people. Maybe I can help you pay attention. Appropriate. Come on, let me tell you about your requirements first. Stark and Hawkeye also booed. Good idea. Let's talk about it, and I will help you to pay attention. Natalia and other ladies quietly stayed away from these guys. Banner scratched his head in embarrassment, but couldn't resist the other party's enthusiasm, so he said helplessly, First of all, I am a scientific researcher, and I hope the other party can support me in doing various boring research. Everyone nodded. Scientists are generally difficult to find a partner, because they usually have no family and are not good at socializing. Stark was an exception, the guy was a genius. Then, you also know that as Avengers, we are always facing various dangers. Therefore, my other half must be able to accept this, at least not be afraid of superpowers. Then what? Quicksilver also came up and recorded in a small notebook. Finally, superhero family members are often in danger, so it's best to have the ability to respond to danger. I have to say, Banner thinks a lot. Hawkeye is thoughtful. He feels that he really needs to strengthen the security of his family. Stark couldn't help complaining. I think you might as well wait for the next female Avenger to show up. He glanced at the hall with a depressed expression on his face. All the flowers in the Avengers were taken by Thor. There may be a Captain Marvel, the problem is that few people can subdue that woman. He suddenly had a flash of inspiration. There is no such thing on Earth. It is hard to say in the universe, just like Asgard, even a woman can fight. So do you have any racial requirements? He asked. Banner obviously misunderstood his intentions, and said with a nostalgic face, No, I used to get along with a beautiful black girl in Brazil, and I saved her from the local gangsters. It's a pity that I should control her. I can't transform, so I have to bear the pain and give up. Thor quickly interrupted his memory. I have someone to choose. First of all, the other party will definitely support your scientific research work, because she is originally a great scientist. Then, your identity will not be a problem, because people usually have been in contact with superheroes. Well, she is still very rich, incomparably rich. Thor smirked and kept a secret. Banner was confused. Are you sure you didn't mean Stark? Get out. I'm a pure man. Then Thor added, and this girl is good at making exoskeleton armor. At this moment, Stark finally couldn't sit still, and yelled, FK, are you sure you're not choreographing me? With a thoughtful look on his face, Steve reminded Stark. Tony, I know your father. He was as good at playing as you when he was young. Could it be one of your sisters who lived outside? Stark calmed down, thoughtful. After all, she is an existence with an IQ of 250, and she quickly thought of the key point. You guided me on purpose, right? That means the other party must not be what Steve said, right? Thor applauded. I didn't say anything, it's all your guesswork. Everyone has black lines on their faces, didn't you deliberately mislead? But, if there is such a person, why have we never heard of it? Natalia asked suspiciously. She used to be a 10th level agent of, and has long been committed to finding superheroes. So many obvious features, not to mention that everyone knows it, at least there is no trace of cobweb, right? Thor smiled and shook his head. Kamar Taj's Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One is also not known to many people, but it doesn't mean she is not good. Even if I face her now, there is no way I can win. The strength is superior but the nameless, it means that the other party has the ability to cover up their own traces. Then pointed at Steve's shield. Remember the shield material? Vibranium. Steve definitely won't forget. The most precious metal in the world. What if all the vibranium in the world comes from one country, and there is a vibranium mine as big as a mountain in someone's home? In everyone's astonishment, with a swipe of his hand, a world map appeared on the screen in front of him. Thor pointed to somewhere in Africa. This place is truly the most advanced country on Earth, and its technological level has even reached the peak of the universe. If the portal of the New York War appeared there, they would be able to solve it even without a superpower. Could it be that you were talking about the cosmic power Gambia? Stark looked strange. This is a meme on the internet. Gambia, a powerful country in the universe, claims to eliminate Mauzi in 7 days and level China in 10 days. It once shot down the embassy of the United States with a machine gun, and it can be called the world's #1 shit stirrer. Compared with the mouth-powerful king like Gambia, Africa still has a real superpower. Wakanda, one of the least developed countries in the eyes of ordinary people. For centuries, it has been isolated from the world, ostensibly a poor and backward agricultural country. In fact, this is the most technologically advanced country on Earth, faith in Buster, the panther god. The supreme leader of Wakanda is the king, and the successive rulers are called Black Panther. Unlike some other African countries, the people of Wakanda are relatively civilized and not so barbaric. If Wakanda is not too closed, the people of Wakanda must be like everyone in the world are friends. Thor's words are just like telling a story to other people, it is too mysterious. Stark muttered, so the vibranium used by Ultron was bought from Wakanda? Strictly speaking, it's not buying. Can only be regarded as smuggling. Because under normal circumstances Wakanda is very strict about the circulation of vibranium, and only trades when needed. This is a country that pursues isolationism, so it will be unknown. Speaking of this, Thor smiled mysteriously. Wakanda's little princess Shu Rui is a great scientist, and she designed many black technologies, including the latest Black Panther battlesuit. As Thor spoke, he swiped his hand, and a black girl appeared on the screen. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Banner was immediately attracted. Thor snickered secretly. It seems like a good thing to let Banner sacrifice and pull Wakanda into the Avengers Alliance's chariot early? And it's not even a sacrifice. Banner seems to have a special affection for the Black Sister, just like the Black Sister in Brazil, and the female Valkyrie of Sakaar have a particularly good relationship with him. In the middle of the night, in a jungle somewhere in Africa, a mercenary attacked a convoy. It was said that there was a piece of extremely precious metal in the convoy. As the ultimate example of pretending to be a pig, Wakanda appears to be just a third world country. The convoy's weapons are all the most common axe series of poor people's weapons. Facing the prepared mercenaries, the firepower is directly suppressed. Damn it. In the middle of the convoy, Princess Shu Rui cursed secretly, considering whether to take out her energy hand cannon. But if this is the case, it is likely to be the secret of Kanda in Chi-Chi City. At this moment, a loud roar sounded, and a burly figure rushed forward facing the bullet, raised a car with one hand, and swept across the panic-eyed mercenary, causing the opponent to rush to the street with one blow half. Although the mercenaries were all desperados, they ran away screaming before they reached the bottom of the Hulk. Hulk, smash. Hulk raised the military Humvee high up in his hand, and slammed it on the ground. The mountain shook suddenly, and a huge amount of cracks on the ground extended forward. Several mercenaries fell down on the spot, and the few remaining people were also killed. The huge amounts of shockwave fell to the ground, and were caught up by Hulk and wiped out one by one. While Bruce Banner is a good man, his compassion doesn't face such desperados, let alone Hulk's mind right now. Hulk. It's Hulk. The Wakanda yelled in excitement. Unlike Westerners who claim to be gentlemen, they have a good impression of Hulk, a beast superhero who has always admired power and glory. Among the Avengers, Hulk is the most popular in Wakanda, and Thor almost means it. Despite advanced technology, Wakanda people still worship the most powerful men in hand-to-hand combat. Including the king's position, all must go through hand-to-hand combat, and the winner is eligible to inherit the power of Black Panther. Princess Su Rui ran up and shouted excitedly, "My God, Hulk! I saw Hulk!" Hulk trembled in fright, and immediately changed back to Banner. Seeing this scene, Su Rui obviously also thought of the difference between Hulk and Banner, her eyeballs rolled and stars began to appear. When you need to fight, you can fight better than your brother T'Challa, and when you don't usually fight, you are also a great scientist who is more knowledgeable than yourself. Entering the laboratory and going to the battlefield, this combination of strength and wisdom is simply, ah, what a shame. Banner was frightened by Su Rui, who looked like a fan. He calmed down and looked at the Black Pearl seriously. Well, the real person is much prettier than the photos, with a cute appearance and a kind heart, completely different from the supermodels that often appear at Stark's parties. At this moment, he felt that his spring had come. A romantic hero saves the beauty, and the relationship between Banner and Su Rui heats up quickly. In a ruined base, a man and a woman are confronting each other. Give up, you can't resist. You people, you were born to be my master. The man looked at the woman in front of him with a strange expression. Without saying a word, the woman tried her best to resist the parasite erosion from the opposite ward. No, it was the hive. Her body was covered with a faint layer of golden divine power, which was entered by Thor casually at the beginning, and it seemed to be of no use on weekdays, but this time it played a great role. Sky. Now she should be called Vibe Girl, Daisy John. After recovering her background, she realizes that she is a legendary inhuman race, and also possesses the super abilities she has dreamed of. But now, she is in the biggest crisis. Hive, the world's first alien, can project parasites to persuade all aliens to surrender, so that aliens are willing to do things for the hive itself, and this persuasion is absolute persuasion. There is no possibility of betrayal or being awakened by others. As the first-generation leader of the aliens, after all, he will not fight alone. If you control Sky and let her return to, it will be of great use. At the critical moment, Sky took out a communicator and decisively pressed the button. Honeycomb noticed this movement, and he smiled disdainfully. Don't count on it, no one will come to rescue you, even if your companions arrive, they will add a few more skilled healers to me. Oh, is it so? A cold voice came from behind. Who? Hive was startled, and quickly turned her head to look at the blond man in a red cloak and silver armor who appeared behind her. Thor. Help! Sky shouted excitedly. Different from the wild hacker who grew up in an orphanage and wandered outside since childhood in the original book, she was adopted by Peggy Carter early in this life. Her personality is a little less mature and more immature. Bang! Without a word of nonsense, Thor punched up, and the hive didn't even have time to resist, and his head was smashed by the punch. Wow! So handsome! Sky ran up excitedly and hugged Thor's arm. Are you the Avenger? You can't kill me. Another corpse on the ground slowly stood up. Another ability of the hive, possess the corpses of other people. In a sense, this is a kind of eternal life. Be careful, this guy has a lot of weird abilities. Sky whispered in Thor's ear. Because Hydra will send a devotee to the hive every few decades, and after several centuries, the hive will parasitize hundreds or even thousands of human beings, making the hive multilingual, fighting technique, technology, etc., in ordinary humans are almost omnipotent. But after all, he is just a powerful ordinary person, no wonder he can only be the boss of the series. But he can't control this guy who hates others. Sky is his own. Thor punched him with a sneer. This time, the hive blocked in front of him with both arms in time. Crack. The sound of bone breaking sounded, and before the hive could feel the severe pain, it was a blur before it realized that it was lifted high by Thor, and it hit the ground hard with its head down, and the whole body was half cut into the floor. The head naturally became an exploded watermelon again. If you can, let's play more civilized. The bloody scene made Sky stick out his tongue. Although he was not afraid, girls naturally hate disgusting things. Asshole, you will regret it. The other corpse stood up again. See? You can't kill me. The hive's ability is very strange, he can regenerate almost infinitely, just like the slogan of Hydra, cut off Ilu. 2 more heads grow. It's really ignorant and fearless. A monster created by Kree dares to call itself a god. Then let me show you, the real god. Holding Sky in his arms, he jumped to a height of several hundred meters, and a huge amount of lightning descended from the bar, covering hundreds of meters around the hive. The fleshy body of the hive, which is far superior to ordinary people, could not survive the lightning storm for a second, and instantly turned into coke. The parasite quickly attached to another corpse, but in the lightning storm, only coke was left on the ground, and it was forced to withdraw just as it attached. What made him even more desperate was that this kind of attack that contained divine power also caused a lot of damage to his body. Constantly reborn, and constantly died, the hive was reborn dozens of times in just a few minutes, his body became weaker and weaker. I'm not reconciled. With a roar full of despair and resentment, the god of Hydra finally died and completely disappeared from the world. Explained it like this: I haven't seen much and I don't plan to write in detail. And compared to the movie series, most of them are mortals fighting mountains. It's dead? Sky murmured. The super boss in the eyes of is like a joker in front of Thor, making her feel like a dream. Thor patted her on the cheek. What do you think? This world is much bigger than you imagined. The existence of the hive is not even a small guy. He calls himself the god of Hydra, and he is really a god. In 2 years, a real cosmic overlord will come to Earth, and that will be the battle of the gods. If you can fully control your ability, you will definitely have a place in the future battle. Sky nodded. This is what she thought of. You already know my life experience, right? You hinted at the beginning that I would become a superhero. Aunt Carter told me that you can see the future, is it true? Sky is smart. Thor neither admitted nor denied, and said with a faint smile, all I can see are some general directions, not accurate to everyone and everything. Just like you, I know at most that you will awakening vibes ability, but can't see every trace of you. Since World War E, the flow of the world has changed, and many things will no longer develop as I remember. Just like Sky, she was originally left in the orphanage in history, and later became a hacker of the Rising Tide organization, broke into and became an undercover agent, and finally rehabilitated and joined wholeheartedly. An undercover agent is a model of the boss. After all, Sky has achieved the 10th level. But now, if he is a hacker, he joined because of Peggy Carter. Although the result is not much different, the difference in life trajectory is big. Among other things, there is a sentence in the original book, the ironclad Sky, the flirtatious boyfriend. This chick has her own Kefu attributes. She is more terrifying than Kafuna from a certain online game. She is a lone star. It's different now. Peggy Carter has been watching closely since she was a child, who dares to have bad thoughts and send her to drink tea immediately, but now Thor is cheaper. Looking at Sky with his hands hanging on his body, what Thor thought was, will Peggy go berserk if she finds out? In front of the TV, a piece of news is playing about the Sokovia incident. The TV station selectively played the interview clips, and some people were admiring that the Avengers saved the world again. However, more dissonant voices emerged. We are very grateful for the justice of the Avengers. But can they take care of the lives and property of innocent people? Look, they destroyed another city. After causing so much damage, they just pat their butts and left. What's the difference between them and those alien invaders? Yesterday was New York. Today is Sokovia. What about tomorrow? It takes a long time to build a city, but it only takes a few hours for the Avengers to destroy it. Is that so-called god from an alien planet really a god? Stark is a hypocrite. Why don't you stop selling arms? The crime he committed is 100 times bigger than selling arms. Thor pressed the remote and sent the TV. In fact, such voices often appear. There are always those people who are obedient in the face of a crisis, but after the crisis is over, they strike out at their own heroes. And during this period of time, this kind of news has obviously increased, and even caused fishing boats all over the world. No one will believe that no one is behind the scenes. The Sokovia incident, in the final analysis, was Tony's fault, and he tried his best to make up for it afterwards. Reflecting a small city with a small population and a poor economy, Stark Industry can still afford it, at least it can settle every refugee. But New York is different. Even if Stark squeezes it out, he can't afford it, and it's not the Avengers' fault that the New York War happened in New York. But people don't think so. Among other things, the housing prices in New York rank first in the world. In a battle in New York, countless buildings collapsed, especially in Manhattan, where hundreds of millions of dollars would be wasted with just a single smash. More importantly, the insurance company does not cover the losses caused by the war. Moreover, many people who bought a house with a loan just paid the down payment, and then the house collapsed, but the money owed to the bank still has to be repaid. The collapse of the house is an incident of aliens. You go to the aliens to settle the claim yourself, and it is another matter to owe money to the bank. The old American government is not so rich, and the people have to be responsible for a lot of money for some things. Even if the Washington government came forward to deal with it, it would only temporarily waive the interest and delay the time to repay the debt. In the case of the Great Heavenly Dynasty, if something like this happened, the government would come forward and order the money to be transferred to bad debts and not to be recovered. Although bad debts are not a good thing for credit investigation, they are better than going bankrupt and going to the rooftops, right? What's even more painful is that European and American countries generally consume in advance. The awareness of deposits is not strong, and the ability to resist risks is poor, so it is easy to explode if something happens. Moreover, the people are easily incited, and it is really a beautiful scenery to make troubles. There is no trace of high quality and high education at all. Perhaps in the eyes of those people, you Avengers Alliance should defend the Earth, you should block the enemy from the Earth, let them come in and endanger us, it is negligence. Besides, if you were told to fight the aliens, you should fight hard, so you can't protect our industry from being affected. Since my property has been damaged, you should be responsible to the end. The main ones being targeted are Stark and Thor. Those people are very smart. The former is the richest in the Avengers Alliance group, and the latter is the leader of the Women's Federation. Although Hulk is the most destructive, everyone knows that this guy is a big poor. But now this guy is not poor anymore, he has a relationship with the richest people in the world. No. Why is this happening? Banner hugged his head in pain. On the TV, a piece of news is broadcasting the devastation after the Great War in New York. Countless people are condemning the Avengers and Hulk. How can there be no dead man in war? Princess Su Rui comforted him beside him. Why don't they think about it? Otherwise, with your hard work, how can they have their lives screaming now? If you want me to say, these people are not worth saving, they might as well be the shit of aliens. The sturdiness of the black girl is vividly displayed. Ahem. There was a coughing sound from the door. Young Black Panther, the next king, T'Challa, interrupts Shuri's radical remarks. He said with a wry smile, the responsibility cannot be entirely attributed to innocent people. The disappearance of life savings and even a large amount of debt are really unbearable for ordinary people. Su Rui retorted. But that's not their reason for targeting heroes. The patient's death will be unbearable for the family members, so can they stab the doctor? This metaphor has both T'Challa and Banner spouting. T'Challa looked at Banner. Wakanda's little princess is in love, which is a big deal, and T'Challa is definitely worried about her sister being cheated on. Over the years, they have been very cautious. The investigation results are quite satisfactory. After all, Banner's fighting style after transforming into Hulk is still very popular with Wakanda people, and he is originally an honest person, so he is not worried about abducting Su Rui. He actually understood Su Rui's thoughts very well. It's just that, as the heir to the king, T'Challa needs to consider more things. Jingle bell, the phone rang, it was Stark. Have you read the news? A dignified voice came from the phone. Then what are you going to do? What should I do? Let's do it like this. All I know is that the Trudime Manor is my private property, and I'm going to force them to do something about them outside. I'll kill anyone who dares to come to my place to make trouble. No way. Responsibilities don't exist here. Dude, don't do this, you will make people more disgusted by the Avengers. It's none of my business. Since a group of idiots are being shot by others, they must understand the risk of provoking me. After speaking, I hung up the phone. Minerva, anyone who breaks into the manor without permission, the first shot will be a warning, and the second shot will kill him immediately. I will take care of the accident. I don't care about your own riots, don't mess with me. Yes, Your Highness. Minerva took the order. Sometimes, I really want to put aliens in and kill these idiots, Thor said to himself. Ha 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 ha, bro, am I right? Earthlings are like this, what's the use of protecting them? They're all a bunch of white-eyed wolves. How about I plan another Zarita invasion and kill them? In the video chat, Loki laughed wildly. Heimdall saw what was happening on Earth and rewarded him. Thor glanced at it and said with a weird smile, "It's really a good idea. You can contact Thanos and ask him to give you another army or a rough stone. Oh yes. I'm not sure if the other party will kill you to sacrifice the banner, after all. Purple sweet potato essence hates me so much now." Loki was at a loss for words. Why do they do this? Knowing the cause and effect, Sif's face was filled with anger, completely incomprehensible. In our Asgard, people are hurt by the invaders, they will mourn, and they will find ways to protect their relatives and property, but they never hate their own heroes. No, dare to fight against foreign enemies by yourself, but vent your anger on those who protect you. This is a shameless betrayal. Thor stroked the back of her hand. Because, this is the fighting nation. In the face of crisis, we are always the most united. As Thor expected, some idiots came to the door to make trouble. A few young people got hot-headed, clamored for compensation, ignored the warning and rushed into the manor. Minerva shot his head in the first place. This time, many protesters were stimulated, and the voices of "severely punish the murderer" came one after another. At a press conference, Thor took out the non-concession law and castle law, and impassionedly described the legality of his own self-defense. FBI agents came to investigate in various ways, which also confirmed this point. This time, everyone retreated, but the intensified fishing boat has not receded. Thor didn't care. The death of a few hot-headed guys is nothing to the politicians. It probably means a few words of regret and 3 glasses of fine wine. But Thor showed his firm attitude. Politicians are actually not stupid. Seeking justice for innocent people is just a cover. How could they really want to push the Avengers to the opposite side? Soon they introduced new ideas. We cannot forcefully judge the Avengers for the damage they caused, because they were all helpless in the fight against evil. Doing so will undoubtedly chill the hearts of heroes. However, the means used by the Avengers in battle must be limited, otherwise it will cause a greater threat. Therefore, I think that all Avengers and even other super abilities should be included in the management of the World Security Council. First, I gave a small hand to the Avengers Alliance, and then I wanted to see you. Politicians are desperately inciting public opinion, putting pressure on the Avengers, and attempting to kidnap them morally. At this time, another incident happened, which directly brought the conflicts of all parties to the peak. In Nigeria, Steve finally blocked the last boss of Hydra, Crossbones Rumlow, who was transferring a batch of biochemical weapons as a mercenary. With the cooperation of Falcon and others, Hydra is naturally no match. Rumlow was beaten into a dog by Steve and pushed to the ground. At the critical moment, he revealed the information of Winter Soldier Bucky, and detonated the bomb on his body while riding on Steve. At the critical moment, Wanda activated ability to control the explosive fireball, trying to send it high into the sky. Boom. Wanda's ability was not stable enough after all. Unable to suppress the power of the explosion, the fireball exploded violently when it was close to a hospital. Ah, no. Wanda's eyes widened, and she covered her mouth with a dull expression. Steve came to his senses, and quickly said to the communicator, "Sam, rescue is needed in the building. Hurry up with the fire brigade, go up and save people." Fortunately, Wanda's control is stronger than in the original history. When it exploded, it was close to the top of the building, and the death toll was not many. Definitely, casualties are one thing, and the reactions of political leaders from various countries are another. For them, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to attack the Avengers Alliance. Maybe some of them are still a pity. Why don't dozens or hundreds of people die? For a time, the reputation of the Avengers in the major media plummeted, and the world's mainstream media severely criticized the Avengers Alliance. Last month, dozens of citizens were tragically injured in clashes between Avengers and mercenaries in Nigeria. It is believed that such a situation occurs not only because of the crime, but also because of the indifference of the person who committed the crime. A victory won by sacrificing nothing is not a victory at all. They are not governed by international law. If we don't respond to such actions, this will happen. What right does a superhuman like Scarlet Witch have to act in Nigeria? Why do the Avengers ignore the sovereignty and territorial integrity of other countries in cross-border law enforcement? As in history, the whole world is frantically putting pressure on the Avengers. Thor, I've got word. The Council wants the Avengers to be attached to the Council, as they were too, so they're immune to damage done by the Avengers. You need to prepare early. Peggy Carter rushed over to inform Thor with a worried look on her face. Moreover, all private information is required to be released, and family members are under strict protection 24 hours a day. She found that she still underestimated the shamelessness of politicians, and she could figure out such a dirty way. At the same time, she also knew that those guys had already had this idea, that this society found a chance to make trouble. Thor couldn't help but let out a sneer. Most of my family is in Asgard. What will the council do for protection? Oh, could it be that they are surrounding the nuclear bombs at the Trudheim Manor? This kind of protection is really considerate. I am afraid that in the eyes of these politicians, the nuclear bomb is the trump card. Sharon, who was silent on the side, suddenly said, actually, in the eyes of those politicians, superheroes, especially you, are originally a 100 million yield nuclear bomb. Mutual nuclear deterrence is probably the only way they can think of. Thor nodded, probably because he was too high profile in Sokovia? Glancing at Peggy, he put his arm around her shoulder and asked, what about you? What do you think? Peggy broke free from his hand without a trace, and rolled her eyes. Is it interesting to test me? In vain. I came here to inform you. As he spoke, he took Thor's arm. The meaning of his obvious, advancing and retreating together. Sharon was shown a loving face, with black lines all over her head, and she couldn't help complaining. It's over, I'm going to lose my job because of you too. She was 100% sure that there was no way Thor would agree to the council's request. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. In Avengers headquarters, Wanda was in tears and kept apologizing. Steve whispered, it was my fault. The bomb vest could have been removed quickly, but Rumno mentioned Bucky. For a split second, I was that kid from Brooklyn again. We have no choice but to save as many people as possible, and sometimes we can't save everyone. But if we can't accept this, next time maybe no one will be saved. Wanda nodded imperceptibly, still very low. Thor came over, hugged her gently, and asked gently, okay, do you know where you went wrong? Wanda raised her head and was about to speak, but Thor's tone suddenly changed, and he said indifferently, you should let the bomb explode in the crowd, so that the people upstairs will not die because of it. Hydra, let them do something with biological weapons. Do nothing, make no mistakes. Ah? Wanda exclaimed, and then realized that Thor was talking ironically. She smiled wryly. I actually understand the truth, but it's still very. Did I cause you trouble? Thor patted her on the back and said seriously, it's okay, I like trouble the most. In the conference room, General Ross, whom he had not seen for many years, stood in front of the stage and opened a video. First New York, Hulk rampages, passing through the buildings constantly, the place he passes is in a mess. Then Washington, the helicopter crashes, huge amounts of tsunami sweeping tourists. Sokovia, the whole city disappears under the light of Bifrost. Finally it's Nigeria, the explosion on top of the hospital. General Ross talked eloquently. Governments around the world can no longer stand the situation where you have acted arbitrarily without any supervision and restraint for the past 4 years. He picked up a document and handed it to everyone. Now, we have a solution. Look at this document, the Sokovia Act, which was approved by 117 countries, stipulating that the Avengers are no longer private organizations, but must operate under the supervision of a United Nations team, at the discretion of that team. Wait. Thor interrupted him suddenly, and sarcastically said, you mean, when we act in the future, there will be a team of photographers behind us? That's great, we will broadcast the whole action live. Your Excellency Thor, this is not funny at all. General Ross said with a serious face. Many people call the Avengers heroes, but more people like to use the word vigilante. And I will use dangerous to describe a group of uncontrolled superpowers stationed in the United States, habitually ignoring national sovereignty boundaries, where to go, what to do, entirely on their own will, and have no concern for the consequences. Looking around at the Avengers with different expressions, he pointed to the agreement. Believe me, this is the best and most compromised approach. 3 days later, the United Nations will hold a meeting in Vienna to approve the agreement. Steve frowned, stood up and asked, what if our decision doesn't meet expectations? General Ross stopped walking outside, and said seriously, then you all retire. Otherwise, the Avengers who have not signed the agreement and entered any sovereign country that signed the agreement will be regarded as a violation of the sovereignty of 117 countries. It is allowed to use any means to kill this Avenger. General Ross left, and everyone's faces were heavy. Thor suddenly laughed. I didn't expect that our righteous actions were opposed by almost all countries. It's really tough. If only they could be so tough when facing the Kiritas. Although he still had his iconic smile on his face, his tone was extremely cold. I thought we were Avengers. It turns out that we are treated like criminals. The government will keep tracking us and have unlimited firepower against us. After all, The United States is also a signatory country, and we are in the United States. During the Insight Project incident, Sam, who was disappointed with the Council, complained mercilessly. However, this time, 117 countries want to sign this agreement. 117. Do you not take it seriously at all? War Machine Rhodes, as an active soldier, was born with a stand. 117. So few. What a coincidence. I have destroyed more than 117 planets over the years. Thor whistled. We are Avengers, not destroyers, and cannot use threats. Listen to me. The Silent Vision said. During the years when Stark admitted that he was Iron Man, the number of superhumans has increased rapidly, and the disasters that caused the end of the world have also increased simultaneously. This may have a causal relationship. Our super ability has been challenged, and challenges stimulate conflicts, and conflicts can lead to disasters. Therefore, regulation is what we should consider. As a super robot, Vision seems to be invulnerable when he speaks, but it means that if you have a strong force, you will be targeted instead. No wonder so many countries have voluntarily given up their nuclear weapons. They should be doing well now, right? Vision suddenly has nothing to say. Ukraine, Libya. It seems that every one of them has something to do with it. Tony, what's your opinion? You're not usually so quiet. Natalia asked suddenly. Because he's already made up his mind, Steve said flatly. Gosh, you really know me. Stark groaned, stood up and opened a video. In the video, there is a black youth, and some profiles of him. Stark introduced. His name is Charles Spencer, a good boy who could have a good future. He intends to do some good deeds and accumulate some experience before graduation. He wants to use his summer vacation to build ecological houses for the poor. Guess where he went? Sokovia. Everyone fell silent. They had already guessed the follow-up. Heavy. Stark continued with a heavy face. What exactly he was thinking, we have no way of knowing. Because when we were fighting fiercely, we threw a building on him. We don't have a decision-making process at all. We need to be regulated. I accept it in any form. If not regulated, we will be lawless and no better than bad guys. Captain America made an opinion. Tony, because someone died under your nose, so you decided to give up. I didn't give up. If you are not responsible for your actions, you are giving up. These documents are just passing the buck. Steve stood up and raised his voice. In my time, the United States was a country of real freedom and democracy. It represented the struggle of justice against evil. But now, this country has been corrupted and it is no longer free. It's more like a lighthouse trying to dominate the world. Well, how do you say it? Thor reminds. Dragon slayers become dragons. The two talked so seriously that Rhodes couldn't sit still, and she said loudly, but it is not, nor Hydra, but the United Nations that is asking to sign the agreement now. That's human, and if you are a human, you will have goals and selfishness. The Insight Plan is certainly a conspiracy of Hydra, but isn't it the politicians who are trying to control the time that contributed to this plan? If one day, someone really needs our eggs when we are sent elsewhere to do meaningless things? Thor asked Stark in a low voice. Tony, you mentioned the Sokovia incident, so have you ever thought that once the agreement is signed, the agreement will not prevent you from producing Ultron, at least more applications and approval will be over. But the agreement must delay us to stop Ultron's actions. But if we don't sign, they will force us to sign, that's how things are, and it will be ugly. Natalia hesitated to speak. If there is no Thor, maybe she will choose a temporary compromise for the sake of the overall situation. But now, she stands by Thor's side unconditionally. What's interesting is that once the bill is implemented, Stark, who has a family and a business, will be the most affected, and he will sacrifice the most. And Steve is completely unaffected, and he is the one who has the least influence. Judging from the degree of influence, Stark is the hardest to accept the bill, while Steve is the easiest to accept. But now, these two people have made the opposite choice, because their decisions are not for selfishness. Well said. Thor suddenly applauded. You mentioned a very critical point. When these politicians who think they are high above them, when they introduced the bill, they never considered whether we would accept it. They didn't consider us at all. Put them on an equal footing, but force us to submit. Perhaps in their eyes, we are the weak side, only the obligation to accept without the power to refuse. But the fact is that we are the party qualified to make decisions. Thor's words were murderous. Hey, come on. Stark scrambled to put out the fire. He whispered. Some of our actions have made big mistakes in front of the public. We need to rely on the bill to win back trust. Believe me, we only made a small compromise so that there is room for maneuver. If there is a complete break, then... Stop. Thor interrupted Stark, suddenly realizing that the scientific genius was politically naive. First of all, as far as I am concerned, the trust of the people is not as important as dancing with Nada. It is not that I need their trust, but that they need my protection. Then, I don't care about breaking with the council. When two parties have a dispute, there is always one party who needs to compromise, but that must not be me. Thanos, the first butcher of the universe, can't let me compromise. What are those politicians? If not with the emergence of Sorcerer Supreme, the Earth is still under the rule of Asgard. What is going on now? You want to turn yourself into a master, and in turn enslave me, the future king of Asgard? Stark was at a loss for words, and he suddenly realized that what Thor said was very reasonable. As an alien prince, how could he come to Earth to be a pawn for others? The last point, I understand what you mean, first compromise and sign the agreement, and then fight for more rights for us, right? Stark nodded, he thought so. However, the reality is that the opponent will only press forward step by step, and it is absolutely impossible to give up the power that has been obtained with great difficulty. In other words, the place we are most repulsed by is the place that the opponent desires the most. At that time, what can you do? Either compromise to the end, or violate the agreement and be legally targeted by the other party, even if the conflict is unreasonable. I'm glad we didn't have this bill 4 years ago, otherwise the nukes would have gone off in New York. Tony, what would you have done if the board had ordered you to drop the nuke and detonate it in New York? Well, by the terms of the bill, they totally could put a gun on Pepper Potts and make your choice. Stark was speechless. The scene was already obvious, and only Stark, Rhodes and Vision agreed to sign the agreement. There is also a Black Widow in the original book, but she was originally a middle of the road faction. Now that Thor has made a decision, she is also selfish. Even non-staff personnel from such as Sky and Sharon are on Thor's side. Stark's face turned dark. Okay, don't pay too much attention to it. Stark and I will go to the signing site of the agreement in Vienna, and try to persuade the representatives of various countries to change the content of the agreement and give us enough respect. Thor, will you come too? Stark nodded in agreement. This seemed like the best way to get married. He already had a premonition of the split of the Avengers alliance. Thor shook his head in disbelief. He didn't like Captain America's idea. For these politicians, meeting them is a waste of time. Besides, it's still the same sentence. They are not qualified to let themselves come to the door for consultation, and the reverse is almost the same. As the top Asgardians in the universe, arrogance is inherent, and good upbringing allows them to learn to treat everyone in every race equally. But when someone puts their nose on the face one day, I'm so sorry, I am a god, but I just look down on you mortals like ants. No matter what he chooses, it is his own idea. I will not and cannot interfere with him. Don't make it difficult for me. Betty Ross was holding the phone, feeling very excited. For so many years, General Ross rarely contacted her. Unexpectedly, the rare occasion when she took the initiative to call was to ask her to blow Thor's pillow and get him to agree to the bill. General Ross is very clear that Thor will be the biggest thorn in the side, and if he is dealt with, others will not be able to make waves even if they disagree. But no matter what, she was unwilling to let Thor make a decision against her will because of herself. Besides, she also knows that Thor is usually talkative, and will never give in on matters of principle, and will not change principles because of a woman. After hanging up the phone, Betty sat on the sofa with red eyes. What's the matter? Got into a fight with your father? Thor's gentle voice came. Betty Ross was silent. Thor hugged her gently. This is politics, this is politicians, these are not suitable for you. Sorry, I got you involved. Don't worry, your father is your father, you are you, and it's none of your business. Beep. The doorbell rang, and Thor went to open the door. A girl wearing sunglasses and wrapped up in a thick body came in. Thor looked at it carefully, and said hilariously, "Is this Miss Agent going to a masquerade ball?" Sharon Carter glared at him, annoyed. "I wanted to just come in like this, but now there are many people outside the manor watching." He took off his clothes and said solemnly, "My aunt's place has been monitored, she can't leave, and her phone is also monitored, so I'm here to tell you, you must be careful recently." Thor had expected it earlier. During the day, the bill handed over by General Ross actually contained a monitor. His offensive remarks probably made the politicians nervous, right? Thor looked indifferent and sneered. "I don't know what the council thinks of my estate now, Chernobyl, or Raccoon City." Seeing that he didn't care, Sharon also relaxed, and said with a smile, "I think it's a Raccoon City, and there are quite a few people who suggested using nuclear bombs." Thor's eyes turned cold, and he said cruelly, "It's okay, I will send it to Wall Street before the nuclear bomb explodes. Sharon shrugged. It seems that you have already prepared, so I am relieved. By the way, my aunt asked me to tell you, she said, give in when you should give in, and never give in when you shouldn't. Even if everyone tells you the wrong thing is right, even if the whole world tells you to get out of the way, what you have to do is stick to it like a tree and firmly refuse. Thank you. Thor said in a low voice. Is it dereliction of duty for her to say such a thing? Sharon laughed. You can't say that, Aunt has retired a long time ago, so it doesn't count. The voice suddenly became low, and he sighed. Actually, I was the one who dereliction of duty. A bad job as an agent, if it's gone, it will be gone. Don't worry, I'll find you a good job in Asgard. It's really fresh and refined to say that I'm working for you, what a hell. Sharon saw his sinister intentions. 3 days later. At the conference in Vienna, Steve and Stark walked into the venue together in suits. Nice to meet you, Mr. Steve, Mr. Stark, Banner mentioned you to me. T'Challa, Prince of Wakanda in formal attire, came up to greet them. There was only one thought in Stark's mind. F***K. Banner moves so fast, did he even see his parents? Steve stepped forward to shake hands. I'm sorry for what happened in Nigeria. Thanks. This place makes me uncomfortable. Stark asked. What, you don't support the agreement? T'Challa thought for a while, and said seriously, from my personal point of view, I think some parts of the agreement are unreasonable. But from a political point of view, I support the agreement. I hope you can understand. Steve shook his head and said, if it is such an agreement, I will not accept it. I will try my best to persuade these countries to change their positions. I hope you can do it. To be honest, I also feel that the minds of many countries are not that simple. The old king of Wakanda made an impassioned speech on the podium. Justice must be done within the framework of order, otherwise it will cause more chaos. The Avengers guarding the world is indeed great. But this is not a reason for them to have unlimited law enforcement powers, let alone a reason for ignoring civilian casualties in battle. So, on behalf of Wakanda, I advocate the signing of the Sokovia Act. The audience applauded thunderously. King T'Chaka continued. Perhaps, there are imperfections in our bill, so I hope to let the Avengers express their opinions. He stretched out his hand as a gesture of invitation, and smiled. Mr. Steve, please. We desire order and peace, and we also need to hear voices of different opinions. I don't agree with you, but I will defend to the death your right to speak. In fact, the old king is a kind person, not those shameless politicians. Thank you. Steve shook hands with King T'Chaka before walking up to the dais. T'Challa was walking outside the window, looking downstairs bored. Several security guards are checking a car. A security guard suddenly exclaimed, shouting and backing away. Not good. T'Challa reacted instantly and shouted, it's dangerous, everyone lie down. He rushed in quickly trying to throw his father down. Boom. The deafening explosion sounded, and the strong shockwave burst the glass instantly. The scene was a mess, and T'Challa rushed in frantically, seeing his father lying in a pool of blood. The explosion in Vienna hit the faces of all participating countries, and the Sokovia Act was passed unanimously with 117 votes. The Avengers can only choose to accept the agreement and be supervised by the Security Council. Either refuse to sign, that is, retire, and be regarded as persona non grata by all member states that signed the bill, and refuse to enter in any form. Once forced to enter the country, it will be regarded as an aggression, and will be wanted by all the treaty countries, and can be killed by any means. Steve definitely wouldn't be satisfied with such a result, but he has no energy to deal with bills now. A video of the suspect was released, and all the evidence points to his best friend, Bucky. At least on the surface, yes. My mom used to talk me out of enlisting, but Aunt Paige didn't. She gave me my first holster. On the outskirts of New York, Sharon was chatting with Thor on the sofa in the living room of the manor. Then did she tell you that I used that holster? Back then, I was a master gunner who knocked down a platoon with a single bullet. Sharon jumped up, and immediately reacted, glaring at him. Nonsense. I haven't unpacked it when I received it. Thor shrugged. Okay. What are you doing now? Steve, they're off to Vienna for a meeting, and you're not worried that they'll all sign? No, not Steve at least. But I guess they're out of the bills right now. Sharon was taken aback for a moment, but she immediately reacted, and immediately picked up her phone to check the latest news. A bomb placed on a news van blew up the building in Vienna. More than 70 people were injured and at least 12 were killed, including King T'Chaka of Wakanda. It's a pity, it's a little less, The representatives of the countries who signed the agreement are either bad. Thor sneered. Boom, the door was pushed open, and Peggy Carter hurried in. Hey, didn't you say you were being monitored? How did you get away? Thor joked. Because there are more serious things now. The meeting in Vienna was attacked, and the suspect is Bucky, James Barnes, our old friend. As I said earlier, he's not dead, is he? Thor interrupted her, and introduced himself. After falling into the deep valley, he was captured by the Hydra organization, who revived him and controlled him. Under the transformation of Dr. Arnim Zola, a mind control device was implanted in his brain, which cleared his previous memories and made him an important killing weapon of the Hydra organization, the Winter Soldier. As a Winter Soldier, he completed various impossible tasks for Hydra all over the world. He is currently living in Romania in seclusion, has successfully retrieved all his memories and quit the Hydra organization. Peggy digested this passage carefully. Sure enough, you already knew it, so why did you? I don't have to save everyone, especially a bunch of politicians who put collars on us first. Paige sighed. But now, Bucky has been wanted. The council's request is to kill him on the spot, and the captain will definitely not give up on him. If they resist, the council will likely send out signed Avengers. Peggy Carter was worried for Thor. She thought that the Avengers might disintegrate, but she didn't expect that they would fight each other so soon. Bucky has a good relationship with me anyway, how could I cheat him? Thor smiled with some nostalgia. During the days when he was in the Roaring Commando, even though it seemed to him that children were fighting, they were still very happy. His relationship with Bucky is also very good. Definitely can't compare to Captain America, the two share the same bed. Bucky was wronged, he's got his memory back. Thor patiently explained to the two women. I didn't do it. I didn't go to Vienna. I don't do that anymore. In a rental in Romania, Steve finally meets Bucky. Bucky categorically denies the trumped-up charges. In fact, if it wasn't Steve, he wouldn't bother talking about it at all. Captain America believed him immediately. Hearing footsteps downstairs, Steve got a little anxious, and he said quickly, but now, people who think you've done it are here, and they're not going to keep you alive. Bucky, we don't have to fight, or... Bucky smiled faintly. Steve, you're still so naive. Boom boom boom. The sound of footsteps downstairs approached quickly, a flashbang was thrown in, and Steve quickly grabbed it with the shield. Boom. There was an explosion, the door was pushed open, and soldiers from the CIA rushed in. That is to say, this is Helmut Zemo's conspiracy? Yes, he knows that he doesn't have the ability to avenge the Avengers, so he can only design for us to kill each other. Sharon was a little puzzled, she wondered. Then why didn't you say it? Ordinary commandos can't catch the captain, and the council will definitely shoot Iron Man to arrest them. Bucky was wronged, but the difference in ideas between the two sides is real. The contradiction already exists, and Zemo just magnified it. The bill has been passed, and Bucky is just a fuse. Without him, there will be other conflicts. Besides, there are some things, I hope to get rid of them, so that it will be more convenient. Peggy's pupils shrank, and she realized that Thor was going to make a big move. Then you should be careful. The other Avengers are being held back. It is convenient for you to do things, and it is also for the council. Thor said disdainfully. I'm just waiting for them to move. You can rest assured that there is no place on Earth that is safer than Trudime Manor. It's just that you stay here recently and don't leave. I'm worried that your crazy politicians can do anything. By the way, let me add to the fire. Thor held a press conference on the Sokovia Act. As the strongest Avenger, Thor's attitude has attracted more people's attention, and reporters swarmed like sharks smelling blood. Facing countless cameras, Thor delivered a speech. Many people have always known the results of the meeting in Vienna. The 117 countries participating in the meeting passed the bill unanimously. The Avengers must be supervised to carry out their missions. Well, you were right. In the future, while saving the world, the Avengers will need to wear a dog leash to point and bite. Everyone could hear the sarcasm in his tone. Haha, what a group of ignorant and short-sighted guys, trying to control the most powerful force in this world, even came up with such a despicable method, calling it order and stability. The reason why you have today's security and peace is because someone desperately blocked the danger. In the past few years alone, human beings have been close to extinction several times. Because of the losses caused by the war, they spread their anger on the soldiers. I don't even think about who it is that makes you guys qualified to stand here and push. Asgard began to protect the Earth countless years ago. If my father hadn't defeated the giants of Jotunheim, an evil race that invaded the Earth, over 1,000 years ago, this lair would have been frozen. For this reason, my father even lost one eye. And now, you are actually trying to enslave the future king of Asgard. My attitude is very simple: get out. Don't worry. I will definitely abide by the requirements of the law. Since you feel that the Avengers have caused losses to your lives and properties during their mission, then I will follow your wishes. Next time a crisis comes, please use your own hands, go and protect all of this. I hope you will not regret it. Don't worry. I will never make a move in a country that has signed the Sokovia Act. At that time, if you can't stop it, don't come to me, go to your politicians. Thor's fierce rhetoric made the reporters fry, and they even thought about tomorrow's headlines. Reporters crowded forward one after another, asking questions loudly. Excuse me, is Mr. Thor threatening us in disguise? Is Mr. Thor's attitude representative of the Avengers? All 117 countries have passed the bill. Are the Avengers going to be enemies of most of the world? Half the world? Thor smiled mockingly. He has seen the list of 117 countries that agreed to the bill, and they are basically the doglegs of the United States. Thinking about it is also true. If it is Liao Mei's competitor, how can he hope that the other party will control the powerful force of the Avengers? 117 countries. Your so-called half of the world, except for a very few fools who have been fooled, is basically the United States, plus a group of doglegs who are looking forward to the horse's head, which is nothing in my eyes. Oh, it is obviously a group of outlaws. Ridgedog, how dare you guess madly in front of you? I have never seen such a brazen person. I even suspect that those governments have been infiltrated by Hydra, trying to stir up conflicts between ordinary people and power users. Oh, by the way, I definitely know why you want to enslave us. Because we are different, because you fear our ability. Humans are always afraid of different things. I am going to tell you now, tell the world, that you should awe us. We can protect the world, and we can also bring you a devastating blow. I welcome you to launch a war against superpowers, but the consequences of the war are up to me. You can't afford it. Oh, damn it. At Leipzig-Halle Airport in Germany, Stark couldn't help cursing secretly after receiving the latest news. This guy is adding fuel to the fire. Does he think the situation is not bad enough and wants to start a war between superhumans and ordinary people? He's so upset right now. Yesterday, with the help of Black Panther and the CIA, Winter Soldier had already been captured and was waiting to be detained and returned home. As a result, when the doctor checked Bucky, an accident happened. Bucky suddenly went berserk, and after a fierce fight, he escaped from the cage, and Captain America and Falcon let him go. General Ross gave him an ultimatum, and he must bring the rebellious Avengers back within 36 hours. In fact, at this time, he has already realized that the goal of the Council is not Bucky, but to make use of the problem, wanting to take the opportunity to wipe out Captain America and other Avengers who resist the bill. Thinking of the tough attitude of the 117 countries at the meeting, Stark felt more and more ominous. Steve and the others are okay. At least they can communicate. They just strive for fairer terms for the Avengers, and there is a possibility of redemption. But Thor has clearly expressed his attitude, and there is no need to discuss that at all, and he even made a statement about declaring war at the press conference. Damn it, he showed great threatening power in Sokovia, and now he comes to such a place again. I doubt that Washington will make extreme moves. Vision's emotionless voice came. I think this may be what this Lord Thor wants. Stark's face turned pale, and he gritted his teeth. It can only be said that those idiots on the council should be more rational. He shook his head to take his thoughts back, and shouted to the opposite side. Steve, come back with me. You, and your partner can all get a fair trial. No, Steve said sternly. You arrested the wrong person, he didn't do it. You have a problem with your judgment. Your old comrades killed a lot of people yesterday. It's the doctor. There are 5 other super soldiers like Bucky, and I can't let the other party find them first, trust me. Steve tried to explain, but was interrupted by Stark. Okay, time is running out. Steve, you know what? I'm trying so hard to stop the alliance from falling apart, and you're bringing Clint into it. No, Tony, the moment you sign it, it's gone. Stark was stunned for a moment, and said dejectedly, maybe. All right, now, hand over Winter Soldier. Please, don't make it difficult for me. He lowered his voice. Otherwise, it will be people from the Special Forces, and they will not show affection. Steve still shook his head. Sorry, I can't go back. The first internal strife since the establishment of the Avengers kicked off. I used to think that the legendary Thor was a hero, but he was like those demons who tried to destroy the world, the country that signed the Sokovia Act, with the threat of the Earth's security. He is a tyrant at all. Didn't you hear him? We should be in awe of him. Sorry, I will never be in awe of a person who threatens us with war. Do mi yang en, shang mi yang. People are forgetful. Save the world once, they think you are a hero. But help them many times when they think it's your duty to save the world. The nature of everything changes. After scolding, I feel comfortable all over. My waist is no longer sore, and my back is no longer hurting. Thor is lying comfortably on the recliner, enjoying Peggy Carter's massage. I don't know about the back pain, but the sore back must be from last night. Sharon stuck out her tongue. It was so noisy last night, I couldn't sleep next door. Peggy. 1. This car is unstoppable. Presumably, there will be a lot of people scolding me outside, right? Thor said with a smile. Yes. Natalia was tapping on the computer beside her. At least half of the latest posts on Twitter are scolding you, and even comparing you to the head of state at the time, demanding that you be hanged for crimes against humanity. If you make it like this, don't you plan to explain it? Explain the fart. This is what I want. Seeing their disapproving expressions, Thor smiled and said, let's tell a story. There was a bully, and the neighbors didn't like him. One day, he suddenly did a good deed, and then he was praised as a good person by others. There is also a good man who often helps others. One day he is sick and can't help others. As a result, the neighbors scold him for being selfish. Peggy was thoughtful. You used to play the role of a good person, but now you are going to change your mind? Isn't it Blacken? That's how it's done in movies. Sharon Carter unceremoniously broke the stage. Ignoring the unscrupulous niece, Thor showed a cold smile. If the problem cannot be solved by reason, then use violence. Ding-a-ling-ling, the phone rang, and it was a number I had never seen before. Thor smiled lightly and put the phone to his ear. Hey, let me guess which old friend is taking the risk to bring me news? The council has passed a decision. A nuclear bomb will be dropped on the Trudime estate in 10 minutes. Nick Fury's deep voice sounded. Wow. I actually get this kind of treatment. Thor whistled. Probably in the eyes of those people, nuclear bombs are omnipotent. Someone had informed him of this news a long time ago, half an hour earlier than Nick Fury, almost when the other party was still in the decision-making stage. As expected, you already knew. Nick Fury said in a deep voice, I hope you can show mercy. Also, try not to leave any traces. Nick Fury knows more than many people, and unlike others, he is more worried about Thor's revenge. Just a nuclear bomb to solve the problem. In his view, this is a dream. Back then in New York, Thor rushed with a nuclear bomb to see him off, but there was no pressure at all. Even if it is detonated in advance, it probably won't hurt him, at most it will arouse his anger and usher in tragic revenge. Ha ha ha. Thor laughed. This old bastard is much smarter than those idiots in the council. Don't worry, I will try my best to control the consequences. Sky, is it resolved? After hanging up the phone, Thor looked at Sky, who kept typing on the keyboard in front of the computer, and asked. If it doesn't work, I have to personally send away the nuclear bomb, but for the follow-up plan, the effect will be worse. Under normal circumstances, what hackers invade can only be the public version of the network, a network that has connections with the outside world. The National Defense System is a military network, which is independent and will not be connected to the external network. The connection with the external network is fundamentally cut off, and there is no possibility of hacking. However, there are people inside who are different. Definitely not Thor's people, but Jinbin's people. Sky hit the last key. Fixed. Now that the nuclear bomb control system has been taken over by me, where do you want it to be directed? Sky asked nervously. In her opinion, Thor is likely to drop nuclear bombs to some important areas, which will inevitably cause a large number of casualties. Even though she knew that the council was the first to take action, she still couldn't bear it. Thor saw what she was thinking, and smiled lightly. Don't worry, it's a no man's land. Reach out and point to the map, probably on the sea between Hawaii and California. Sky gave him a suspicious look and entered a coordinate. Okay. Next, it's time for the people in the council to see the consequences of launching a war. He made a phone call. Mr. Fisk, there is something that needs your cooperation. In a conference room. Sir, the missile with the nuclear warhead is out of control. What happened? How is it now? A big man with 4 stars on his shoulders growled angrily. Just half an hour ago, the council finally made up its mind to launch a nuclear bomb at the Trudime Manor in spite of the world's displeasure. Since the other party is located in the suburbs of New York, doing so will inevitably lead to serious consequences. The council has even considered how to explain all this to the public. Unexpectedly, halfway through the launch of the nuclear bomb, there was a problem. The nuclear bomb didn't explode, it's just that the coordinates are wrong, and it's flying towards the southwest. The landing point should be in the northeast of the Pacific Ocean, and it shouldn't affect the mainland. The boss officer breathed a sigh of relief. Was it really just an accident? At the German airport, the battle between the Avengers is going on fiercely. On one side are Iron Man Stark, War Machine Rhodes, Super Robot Vision, and the little Spider-Man Peter Parker, who was temporarily captured by the young Black Panther T'Challa himself as a strong man. On the other side, Captain America with Winter Soldier Bucky, Hawkeye Clint, Falcon Sam, and newcomer Ant-Man Scott. Black Widow is missing on Iron Man's side, and Scarlet Witch is missing on Captain America's side, which happens to be 5 against 5. At the airport, the battle was already heating up. Ant-Man turned into a giant tens of meters tall, frantically destroying the surrounding facilities, and covering for Steve and Bucky. The gigantic Ant-Man seems to have the power to destroy the world in every gesture. But his movements were really not agile enough. The little Spider-Man sprinted around, tightly entangled him with thin silk threads, and his huge body finally crashed to the ground. Hawkeye, as the last member of the original 6-man team, was no match for Black Panther at all. He kept shooting arrows and trying to fly a kite, but Black Panther pounced on him and used his sliding shovel. The lake is on the ground. War Machine Rhodes did not escape his original historical fate. He was accidentally injured by Vision and fell from a high altitude. An enraged Stark takes down the Falcon with full force. The teammates' backstop bought time for Steve and Bucky. They ran fast and rushed towards the plane. Black Panther blocked the front. "I didn't kill your father." "Bah," G said. "Then why are you running?" Black Panther retorted. "You guys all think that I'm going to beat me to death, and if I don't run away, I'm stupid." Bucky cursed in his heart. Black Panther held them back, preventing them from boarding the plane. The roar of the battle armor sounded, and Stark came. "Captain, stop. Rhodes has been seriously injured, and we can't afford more losses. Do you really want the Avengers to be consumed in unnecessary infighting?" Steve looked down. The arrival of Stark means that the teammate after the break has been arrested and can no longer help. With Stark and T'Challa around, my own Bucky can't get away no matter what. Huh. A car rushed over at the fastest speed. Roar. A violent roar almost shook the entire sky. Boom. The car didn't have time to brake, and it was torn apart from it, causing a violent explosion. A green figure rushed out from the explosion, and with one palm, the unresponsive Black Panther was sent flying hundreds of meters away. Hulk. Hulk. What are you doing? Stark was shocked. Wasn't this guy in Wakanda? Why did he rush out at this juncture? With this guy around, things would be difficult today. Hulk ignored him, turned around, and said in an inarticulate tone, "Go." Steve was taken aback. What the hell? So Hulk came to help him. He reacted, greeted Bucky, and rushed to the plane. "Don't go." Stark tried to catch up, but was blocked by Hulk. "Damn it. Big man, you're in trouble." Stark was so angry that he was about to complete the task, but at the last moment a Hulk rushed out and obstructed him on purpose. "You bastard. Call Veronica." In space, several huge amounts of metal fell down, surrounding Hulk like an upside-down bowl. The metal barrier vibrated violently, and was torn apart by Hulk amidst the sound of metal tearing. What appeared in front of him was a metal warrior with huge amounts of metal. Anti-Hulk armor. In the original history, anti-Hulk armor shined brilliantly in the Ultron event because it subdued the Hulk designed by Wanda and went mad. In this life, Wanda was taken home by Thor ahead of time. Well, the Avengers were brought in ahead of time, so they didn't appear. And now, this epic battle has finally happened. Hello. Mr. Thor Odinson, I am Edwards, a high-level agent of the FBI. Regarding the case of killing an illegal intruder at the Trudime estate last Saturday, the Bureau has new investigation leads. I hope to cooperate with you. Us. A black middle-aged man stood at the gate of the manor, took out his id to prove his identity, and asked Thor to go with them. Are you kidding? A case that has already been determined can be overturned casually? We are completely legal, with ironclad evidence. Skye jumped on the spot and asked the FBI gang to take over. Even if nothing happened, they could make trouble for you. Although she usually likes to argue with Thor, in fact, she has long regarded Thor as the closest person. But Paige and Sharon looked thoughtful. Surprisingly, Thor didn't refuse. Yes, but I have to explain to my family first. Can you wait a little longer? Definitely can. Thor finds Jane Foster. What the hell are you doing? Those people calling you over at this time must have malicious intentions. Are you still going? Aren't you afraid that you won't come back? She definitely knew Thor couldn't be hurt by mere mortals, but it was this guy who always pretended to be mysterious and made her mad. Thor smiled mysteriously. Don't worry, nothing will happen. By the way, where is Mjolnir? Use it for me, I need it tonight. Stormbreaker is powerful, but there are some things Mjolnir makes easier. What hurts is that now Miss Jane has higher authority over Meow Hammer than him. Miss Jane glanced at him suspiciously. For ordinary people, there seems to be no difference between the Meow Hammer and Thor's fist, right? But she still nodded. Following the FBI agent, he got into the car and arrived at the New York branch. The agent led him into the interrogation room. A burly figure appeared in front of Thor, bending his waist humbly. Your Highness, I have already arranged for your order. Do you have any other needs? This fat man is none other than the current mayor of New York, Wilson Fisk, the king of the underground, Kim Bin.